What's up guys, Owen from Owen Thomas Woodcraft here again. Today I am going to be talking about Twca Cams or large spoon knives. I'm going to talk about the difference between them and a normal spoon knife and obviously how to use them. So let's dig in. So the main difference between a normal spoon knife and a Twca Cam is the size. So if you compare this normal spoon knife with a Twca Cam, you can see there's quite a drastic difference. The other big difference is that Twca Cams have a fixed radius. With a spoon knife, you can see it's sort of a decreasing curve, but a Twca Cam is generally, at least, a fixed radius. Now, what that does is allows you to quickly make a particular shaped particular depth bowl to a spoon. Twca Cams are designed as a tool for production making, so they create a particular size very well, very quickly if you're using it right. Whereas a regular spoon knife, it's more versatile in regards to the shapes that it will make because of the different curves on it. So you can make a bowl deeper, easier, or wider, or narrower. But the Twca Cam makes bowls best when they are a section of this curve. So a bowl that deep should be that wide and it will make it nice and even. A bowl that deep would be that wide and make it nice and even. Hopefully you understand. There's a lot of geometry involved, or some geometry involved at least, and I'm not going to waffle on and explain that too much. But yeah, that is the main difference. So production tool, more versatile. Okay, so onto the carving. Now, hopefully you'll have watched my spoon knife video already, my previous spoon knife video already, and you'll know that I always start off by flattening off the top of the spoon before I start. So I've already done that, so I'm not going to show it again. But just so you know, that is what I have done. Right, when you are cutting, I always like to cut the back of the bowl first because it gives you a little bit of protection when you're cutting this way, because obviously you're cutting towards your body, towards your arm, and having wood here at the front of the spoon is going to give you a natural stop when you're carving. Unlike the regular spoon knife, where the cut is more like you're pulling through the wood, with a Twca Cam, the cut comes from rotation. Yeah, so you should be looking at when you're cutting, rotating it rather than pushing it. So I sit with spoon in my hand on my leg, so that's all nice and supported, and the bottom of the handle sits on this leg, nice and supported. Start in the middle of the bowl, not the end, because we're not trying to carve out a massive chunk all in one go. And just rotate the knife. You can move back a little back along the handle a little bit every cut you make. I'm using this hand as a pivot point. I'm not pushing with this hand. I'm just making sure that this part of the blade stays in the same place. So it's just a twist. And you'll see I'm cutting along the grain with this, as opposed to with the regular spoon knife where I was cutting across the grain. Okay, so I'm not going to go too far. What I want to do is now turn it around, and I've got the handle resting on my chest. So the handle of the spoon resting on my chest, the handle of the knife resting on my leg. I do the same, and then I will do the same thing, trying to join the cuts up. Keeping that twisting motion, not pulling. And it probably looks like I'm taking a really big cut, but actually each little sliver is very thin. It's a wide cut, yes, but it's not deep. I'm not cutting massive chunks out every time. So like I said on my previous spoon knife video, if you are having to force a cut, then the more force you put into a cut, the less control you're going to have over it, especially if it suddenly pops through the wood. You've got all that force and it's just going to go wherever. Okay, so hopefully you can see there. That's what I'd call roughed out. Okay, so it's pretty round. It's not perfectly round yet, but I'll show you that on the next stage. One thing that gets asked quite a lot with regards to these knives is how long should you make the handle, because obviously it's a lot larger than your average spoon knife handle. My thoughts on it, and if you're going to be using it in the way I'm going to show you in the video, is that you should make the handle so that as you're sitting comfortably in a chair, the end of the handle should be kind of in the middle of one knee, and then the middle of the blade should be in the middle of the other. That way you don't have excess weight on the end that's no use to you, and you can use your legs as a good support for when you're carving. People use them, lots of people use them in different ways. There's people that use them in a vise or in a bench clamp for if they're carving cups. But if you're just going to be using it for carving spoons, this, I think, is the way forward. When these tools start to get popularised, in modern times at least, the first person making them was a guy called Ben Orford, who some of you may know as Craft Lab Knives. He has a YouTube. I'll put a link down in the description. He has a YouTube, he has a big Instagram following, he lives down the road. Yeah, Ben started making them along with the help of Barn the Spoon, who also has a big following. Some of you will know that he taught me pretty much everything I know about spoons. I was his apprentice. And I started using a Twca Cam when I was working with Barn in his shop. In fact, this knife here is the first Twca Cam that Ben Orford sold to anyone. I was the first in line. So I've been using this one for, how long? 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah, so that's where they started. There's lots of different makers making them now. I'm only going to offer comment on Ben's and Nick Westerman's because they're the only ones that I've used. I've never used the other ones, so I'm not going to tell you that they're good. I'm sure a lot of them are, but I'm not gonna say they're good if I haven't used them. Okay, so yeah, that's the Ben Orford one. This one's made by Nick Westerman, and to be honest, this is the one I use most now. There's slight differences to them. They both work really well, but I'm going to be doing the video with my Nick Westerman one. Some of you who have seen my previous video on how to use a spoon knife might be wondering why I'm suggesting that cutting along the grain is better than cutting across the grain, because in my spoon knife video I said that the wood cuts a lot easier working across the grain. Now with a Twca Cam or a larger spoon knife like this, it's a lot more difficult to hold the spoon in a safe way to be able to cut across than it is with a regular spoon knife. The tendency, or the necessity, sorry, in cutting across the grain means that you would have to place the spoon in your palm like this and work across here. Now this leaves the ball of your thumb directly in the path of the spoon knife, and I actually have probably can't see it on video, but I have a scar across here from when I was learning, and I made that exact mistake. So though it's always important to try and get the cuts that you need on your spoon to make the right shape, it's equally as important, I feel, to be doing it safely. So I don't teach people to cut across the grain with a Twca Cam, because I personally feel that it's not safe, and there's not really any way that you can hold the spoon knife safely. Right, now we've got that safety talk out of the way, I'm going to look at finishing the bowl. So hopefully you guys have watched my spoon knife video. In that I talked about the direction of grain in the bowl. So I'm not going to talk about it so much here. But if you want to know go check that video out. So the basic idea for this is we're going to be working from the tip into the middle, and then from the back into the middle, to try and smooth this out and get a nice even round bowl. So always remembering that this is a twist motion like that, not a pull across the surface. We're twisting. We're using the back of the blade as a guide to run, and we're just taking a small cut using the edge. Okay, so we're going to work this front edge here. Paying careful attention to where you're cutting, where the blade is cutting. So this cut's slightly different. It's similar to the cut I showed with the spoon knife, but again I'm working more on the idea of a twist, a rotation, rather than pulling across. So keeping my thumb well out of the way. You can see all the time I've got it resting so that everything is supported. Go to this back corner. And then to here. And that pretty much does it. So you can actually see from, we're going here, that the blade would actually run all the way through, touching all the edges. So that's how I know that I've got an even shape. Right guys, there we have it. How to use a Twca Cam large spoon knife correctly. I've taught this class at Spoonfest for a bunch of years, and I've always found people have gone away with a lot of new knowledge and a lot of new skills. So I hope this translates to you guys through the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned a lot from it. I will be back soon. So until then, stay sharp and stay positive.